Hello, my name is Austin Habish, the founder of Think Catholic, and you're listening to the Summa podcast, where we study St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae in a way simple and insightful for anyone to understand. The Summa podcast is brought to you by Think Catholic. Taking 2 questions of the Summa a day, we'll seek to summarize St. Thomas's responses, discovering the brilliance of Aquinas and his Catholic faith. This is day 176. So let's get started. We're covering today questions 116, 117 of the Secundae, that is, of quarreling and of liberality. The translation that I always use in these podcasts is the one generously provided to me by Ave Maria Press, the 5-volume set translated by the Fathers of the English Dominican province, which you can now get at a discounted price from Ave Maria Press's site by typing in the code Summa 10. And so here we go. Article 1, whether quarreling is opposed to the virtue of friendship or affability. What we are considering to be quarreling here is, in Aquinas' words, the contradiction which has the intention of displeasing. Now, this is going to be opposed to the virtue of affability because affability has the intention of pleasing others. Although, of course, the affable man will not endorse evil for the sake of pleasing others, yet this does not come from an intention to displease, which is the particular mark of quarreling. In St. Thomas's words, quarreling is opposed to the aforesaid friendship or affability, to which it belongs to behave agreeably towards those among whom we dwell. Hence Aristotle says that those who are opposed to everything with the intent of being disagreeable and care for nobody are said to be peevish and quarrelsome. Article 2, whether quarreling is a more grievous sin than flattery, and it depends. Flattery can have a more malicious motive, if, for example, it is employed in order to deceive another for the sake of gaining some illicit honor or good. Yet according to its kind, quarreling, since it is more distant from its contrary virtue, affability, since flattery still has an aspect of pleasing others to it, then quarreling would be a more grievous sin according to its kind than flattery. Thus, in order to assess if this particular act of quarreling is more grievous than some particular act of flattery, we would have to assess the motive. But according to its kind, quarreling is more grievous. Moving then on to question 117 of liberality, Article 1, whether liberality is a virtue. Just as we can fall short of the summit of virtue, the mean of virtue, through excess on one side, deficiency on the other side. As an example, remember on both sides of that great virtue of religion, whereby we offer right worship to God, there is the vice of deficiency on one hand, which we've called irreligion, like when one takes the Lord's name in vain or steals sacred vessels and the like. Then on the other side, we've described the vice opposed to religion by means of excess, which is called superstition, whereby a man seeks the assistance of the demons or attributes to the stars the power of providence, which is governed by God alone. So too, when it comes to external goods, the summit of virtue we call liberality. The vices against we will articulate in future episodes, but is beautifully articulated here regarding the virtue of liberality in God's plan and man's spiritual welfare. St. Thomas tells us, according to Ambrose and Basil, excess of riches is granted by God to some in order that they may obtain the merit of a good stewardship. Moreover, it suffices for one man to have few things, wherefore the liberal man commendably spends more on others than on himself. In a word, we have a surplus of external goods, if we have a surplus of external goods, in order to assist the poor, to take care of the poor, and at the same time to lay up for ourselves treasure in heaven. And it is through the virtue of liberality that the virtuous man will do these things. Article 2, whether liberality is about money. It is about money ordinarily, but all one's external possessions, in fact, a man can be liberal with. He can be liberal with cash, but he can also be liberal with his house or his car or clothes. St. Thomas teaches here, now those things which are the subject of a man's free-handedness towards others are the goods he possesses, which are denoted by the term money. Therefore, the proper matter of liberality is money. Article 3, whether using money is an act of liberality. Does the act of liberality moderate a man's use of money? And this is exactly what we've been concluding in the previous articles in a sentence from St. Thomas here. The object or matter of liberality is money and whatever has a monetary value. Now, money comes under the head of useful goods, since all external goods are directed to man's use. Hence, the proper act of liberality is making use of money or riches. Article 4, whether it belongs to a liberal man chiefly to give. A thought for us to very seriously consider here and pray over is the following very brief 2 sentences from Aquinas at the beginning of his response to this article. He writes, "It is proper to a liberal man to use money. Now the use of money consists in parting with it." So why do we have money? Not for money's sake. The value of money and the use of money is in giving it away for other things. At the end of the day, we don't want money. We want what we believe we can gain by giving money in exchange for it. So we should not hold on to money. Money is meant to be exchanged. Therefore, we need to exchange it for things we actually need, or save some for the foreseeable future as our necessities require, or give it to others that they may be able to exchange it for the things that they need. And just like it takes greater physical strength to throw a ball 500 yards as opposed to 50 yards, it also requires greater virtue for a man to throw his money away for another's needs, especially a stranger's needs, than to give it away for his own needs. And since greater moral strength is what we mean by greater virtue, the virtue of liberality is seen and exercised specifically, chiefly, in the act of giving away money to others, which was the question of our article. Article 5, whether liberality is a part of justice. This is answered briefly by Aquinas, so allowing him to speak for himself, he writes, "Liberality is not a species of justice, since justice pays another what is his, whereas liberality gives another what is one's own. There are, however, 2 points in which it agrees with justice. First, that it is directed chiefly to another, as justice is. Secondly, that it is concerned with external things, and so is justice, albeit under a different aspect. Hence, it is that liberality is reckoned by some to be a part of justice, being annexed thereto as to a principal virtue." Article 6, in our last article, whether liberality is the greatest of all virtues. Liberality is not likely to be a greater virtue than those which attain to God himself, faith, hope, and charity. And according to Aristotle, looking at the natural virtues, brave and just men are honored chiefly, and after them those who are liberal. Then in general, we judge the superiority or inferiority of a virtue according to the good which it is directed. Virtues directed towards the divine good are the greatest of virtues. Consider religion, the theological virtues. Then virtues directed towards the common good, the universal good, such as fortitude and justice. Then virtues moderating oneself, the man, such as temperance. Then lastly, we have virtues regarding external possessions, and this would be liberality. So liberality is not only not the greatest virtue, it is quite low on the totem pole. Yeah, it's a pretty great virtue in itself, as all of us would probably agree. We love generous or liberal people. And with that, we come to the close of another episode. We have just finished covering questions 116 and 117 of the Secunda Secundae, that is, of quarreling and of liberality. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.